Today, I'm going to be talking about a very, very nice theory of mine. So, where is this? 7, sure. Anyways. So, I have this theory. Well, people have this theory. Heard it said different ways, whatever. So, the theory is that Pantalone is Baizhu. Simple. Now, I've heard theories where, they're twins. They're related in, some other way, but, it's not usually that they're the same person. So, yeah, I guess we'll get into that. So the first reason that I would like to go with this theory is I'll bring up the whole sickness issue. And people are like, oh, the Pantalone isn't sick, whatever, But we know Baizhu is sick and dying. Oh, crap. So Baizhu is sick, which is already kind of a problem. We know that. The game has told us that. And okay, so I'm getting ahead of myself. Oops. Another reason I like to talk about this is because we have this issue with Pantalone's story, in my opinion. And the issue with his story is the fact it's so weak, and it just, none of it makes sense. So the problem with the story is basically his Pantalone's entire backstory was he never got a vision, so he got mad, became a banker for some reason, and joined the Fatui. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay? We know the Fatui are ranked by strength, and so you think, okay, well, that's cool, that just means he's stronger than Child and whoever's rank 10, right? Because he's rank 9. But that's not cool, because Child has his delusion and his vision, and yet he's weaker than this guy who doesn't have a vision or anything. Okay, so he's got money and smarts. That doesn't make him stronger. There's no way he would beat him in a fight. Unless he was able to get a delusion. And what we know about delusions is that using them makes you sick. Right? So, there you go. He's got sickness. Cool. But, hypothetically, if that happened, Child would also have a sickness. So, they're like, well, why couldn't you say Child's him? It's because of the appearance. So, Pantalone, unlike, say, Child, looks exactly like Baizhu, except for, the color scheme. He's got the same glasses, the same hairstyle. He's just got different hair color, which isn't honestly that different. He never opens his eyes, which is suspicious. And he never, well, we never really see him in anything other than the Snezhnaya coat, so it's hard to say, but he's in, black clothing, so they're like, oh, well, that's so different. Right? Cool. So they look the same. So that's something. Now, they're not the same voice actor, which is annoying, because obviously, if they were the same voice actor, you could go, well, they're definitely the same person, so it's a little harder to say that, unless he's switching his voice. People are like, well, they have different hair colors, and we don't even know if they would have hair dye in Genshin. It's hard to say, but they could easily, because they have flowers. They could make dyes. It's not that hard. We have alchemy tables. We could easily make hair dye. They could definitely do it. And even if that info wasn't, something commonly given to everyone, he works with Dottore, okay, assuming Dottore didn't know, though, how would he get the means to do this himself? Baizhu's a doctor, right? Well, that makes it easier for him. He's got tons and tons of flowers and resources he could use to dye his hair. I don't even want to know. This dude has, the entire pharmaceutical company at his knees. He can do what he wants. So, yeah, we'll get into some of that later, though. Oh, yes. The use for Dottore. Because that was also a little weird, is the fact that Dottore and Pantalone work together. Because Dottore is the number 2 Harbinger. We know is super strong and absolutely insane. So, like, nobody goes near him. Everyone's like, no, we don't want to be near him. Nobody wants to work with Dottore. But then you get number 9. He's super low down there. Like, the power difference is gonna be insane, obviously. And yet, he's, like, best buddies with this dude. But he doesn't, like, seem that bad. He's just, like, a banker. He's actually pretty sound. So that's, like, a little weird. And we know from Child, because he says that, basically, none of the Harbingers get along. They all hate each other. So why would he work with this guy he hates? Because he needs him. That's why. So if he does fund him or anything, if he gives him money, it's because he needs him. It's not because they're besties or anything. Because why would they be besties? That would be dumb. But, yeah. The Gnosis. That's a fun one. So we all know that the Harbingers, according to Child, work together not because of the Tsaritsa. He said most of them will literally backstab her. The only thing they're bound by together is the Gnosis. That's like the Gnosis. That's the only reason they work together. Only reason. So you go, okay. So some of them you can see, like, maybe their reason to get them, or Child doesn't have a reason, he's literally just doing it for the Tsaritsa. But clearly, if they're all, most of them are just doing it because of this, then they have some ulterior motive, something they can use them for. So you go, okay, well maybe he wants to use the Gnosis or come stronger and get revenge. Cool. But that's not exactly how that works, and even if he were doing that, again, he'd need Dottore, the only one who is experimenting with the Gnosis. We've seen him do it. We know he's messing around with them. So he needs him, because this dude's doing experiments with the thing he's using for some reason or another. But the reason I think he needs the Gnosis is because he's dying. Because you see, we know for a fact Baizhu is dying. We're told at the end of his story quest, this is probably spoiler, but yeah. We're told at the end of his story quest that he's having a conversation with Changsheng, and they're talking about him dying. We know he's close to dying, and she's all worried. And he's like, no, I'm gonna find immortality. So we know he's looking for immortality, so he can keep his promise, and I assume keep healing people. So Baizhu, there we go. There's Baizhu's reason for needing the Gnosis. He needs the immortality so he can keep his promise to Changsheng, be the one that the contract ends with, and heal people. There you go. There's his reason. Pantalone, what would his reason for the Gnosis be? To make Mora? No, you can't make Mora with a Gnosis. Like, there's no need for that. Okay, like, there's no need for the Gnosis for him, unless he's dying. So, if he wasn't Baizhu, and he wasn't dying from that, he could easily be dying from the use of a delusion, which, again, means he's still legit dying. So, he's dying, probably. Like, I can't think of another reason he would need it, because he doesn't seem like the person that wants revenge. Like, where he is, he seems pretty content. Because, like, he's rich. He owns the most famous bank worldwide. What more does he need? He's got money. He's got power. Somehow. We don't know why he's feared yet. Unless, again, he has a delusion. But, you know. You see, now the reason, because if they were the same person, Baizhu would be the real one. Pantalone would be an alias he made up to be undercover as a harbinger, right? So he would disguise to become a harbinger. You go, well, why would you do that? None of the other harbingers are disguised, or so we assume. But, of course, there's a really good reason for that, and it's because, in this case, he doesn't want people to know he's a harbinger. The harbingers are feared. Like, they don't have a good name put out for them. People are scared of them. They don't trust them. So, if he is trying to be a harbinger, get a gnosis to become immortal, so he can both keep his promise to Chang Sheng and keep healing people, he wants people to trust him. He doesn't want people knowing he's a harbinger, and nobody's going to trust him and go for healing. Therefore, the entire reason he got the contract, completely useless. He got the contract to heal people. Now people don't want to be healed by him because he's a harbinger. Suddenly, there was no point in getting that contract and putting your life in danger to begin with. No point. So, he would disguise himself, apparently well enough that people don't know, make up this lame backstory that, again, is just dumb. And people would believe it, and he'd become a harbinger. No problems. So you go, oh, but what about his closed eyes, right? He's got closed eyes all the time. Like, we never see his eyes open once, which is interesting, because mostly, when you have a character like that, there's a few reasons for that. Either, like, what's her name? Ellen, I think? The girl in Mondstadt. She's got a blindfold over her eyes. It's because she's blind, right? So she doesn't need to see anyways. I don't know who else has their eyes closed all the time in this game, but we know Baizhu's blind. So, if Baizhu is blind regardless, he doesn't need his eyes open for this disguise, because if his eyes are closed, what difference is it going to make? He can't see in the first place. So that makes no difference. Plus, him having his eyes closed is actually saving his disguise, because Baizhu's eyes are so recognizable. Like, they're golden, and they've got slitted pupils like a snake. You're not mistaking those eyes on anyone else. And everyone knows what he looks like, because he's a famous doctor. They would know what his eyes look like. It's just as simple as that. So he has to disguise himself, or people are going to know who he is, and then, like I said, his entire point is gone. That's why I also don't believe, like, he would want to destroy the world, because what is he gaining from this? First of all, if he is Baizhu, he's a healer. He doesn't want everyone to die. And second of all, even if he weren't Baizhu, like, the world burning wouldn't be good for Pantalone. He's a banker. The world burns, the economy collapses. What does he have? He's back to square one. No power, nothing. Assuming he doesn't have a delusion. Another thing is the fact we never actually see Pantalone in game, which is kind of interesting. We've just heard him been talked about. And that's also interesting because of the fact of his bank is in Liyue. And we see Child go in the bank, so you're like, okay. Except the Harbingers aren't supposed to mess with each other. They've got like this, you don't mess with me, I don't mess with you sort of thing. And so, him going in his bank, especially because he was causing problems in Liyue, was not a good thing. And because it's such a famous bank, he would want to be nearby to keep tabs on it, at least. Even if he's not, like, fully there. He'd want to keep tabs so he can know what's going on in his bank, because otherwise, people could come and rob it. You never know. If you're gone from your bank for too long, and it's that popular, and there's that much trouble going on, something's bound to happen. So you're bound to stay closer to it. And conveniently, both the Northland Bank, his bank, and the Bubu Pharmacy are both conveniently located in Liyue, actually fairly close to each other. So, Baizhu, he starts coughing and stuff when he runs. Because I guess physical exercise, like running, is too much for his body. Because of how sick he is and the fact he's dying. So, we've never seen Pantalone do anything besides basically stand there and talk. But assuming he was sick, it doesn't mean he'd be, like, unable to fight, because Baizhu can fight just fine. So, like, he'd be able to fight fine still. It's just running is a no. So, but walking down those stairs, we've seen Baizhu walk up and down the Bubu Pharmacy stairs just fine. Like, that's no problem for his health. So he could just as easily walk down the stairs, go over to the Northland Bank, check it out, without looking suspicious, because he's famous doctor, and maybe he's going to get some money for the pharmacy or something. So then he's looking in his bank, making sure everything's good, and then leaves. It's that simple. People wouldn't suspect a thing, right? So, let's say it this way. Let's say that Baizhu is Pantalone, and they don't have a delusion. In that case, that means Baizhu actually got a dendrovision, and it's real. Or, in the other case, it's possible maybe Baizhu has his dendrovision. He hid it as Pantalone made up a story about not having a vision. So then it's possible he has a vision. Maybe he got a delusion, so he just uses that while he's with the Harbingers instead of his vision. Did it go? But we could also have where Baizhu never had a vision to begin with. He becomes Pantalone and gains a delusion, a dendro delusion, meaning that first of all, he's already dying from his contract. Second of all, he's dying even faster because of the delusion. Third of all, that's how he got the dendro. Well, it would be a delusion at that point. So it's kind of hard to say, but that would be pretty cool. Overall, this is just like stuff I've picked up and noticed. It's kind of fun to think about. It's nothing like, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's serious because it's probably not true. It's just kind of cool to think about. It's a fun little theory. Probably. I'm gonna say it's probably not true. The Hoyo probably wouldn't do that. But it would be totally cool if it was. And that will be it for today.